So could you talk about the specific work that the CFMEU did in support of East Timor's independence?
I think, as I said earlier, we had a lot of Portuguese-speaking members, and then when we started to discuss the issue on building sites, we found rank and file workers actually speaking up strongly in support of what we were talking about. If we didn't have that support from the grassroots and from the rank and file, it would have made the issue more difficult to raise. Some workers regard being involved in politics or international solidarity is inappropriate. They're focused just on their wages and their working conditions, but we had that very strong grassroots support from a section of our membership that made the job easier. We also had a Portuguese-speaking official who was dedicated to the cause of East Timor, so he was able to communicate in Portuguese with these workers and motivate them and encourage them to speak up and support the efforts of the union. So we spoke at meetings of workers, not just about wages and working conditions, but issues of international solidarity, including East Timor. We got workers to express their support by moving resolutions of support for the struggle. We sent resolutions from building sites to the government, expressing an opinion not just from a union office, not just from a handful of paid union officials, but from thousands of workers that actually were genuinely committed to the struggle for independence. And that added a lot of weight to our voice when we spoke up. We took up collections on site to support the liberation movement. On some sites, the workers voted that every worker put in $10 a week for 5 weeks. And on some sites that were less organised, the workers just took up a bucket collection. And it wasn't just union officials speaking on sites. We had leaders of the East Timorese movement in Sydney come to workplaces and convince the workers about the merit of our cause. And we also spoke more broadly to other unions to be active on this important historical battle.
What kind of criticism were you getting, and from whom were you getting this sort of criticism about your work in solidarity with the Timorese?
I think the reality is there are many workers that pay union fees expecting the union to be simply focused on their wages, their safety, their lunch sheds and their conditions. And that's a natural reaction from people that join an organisation for service to their needs. But historically we've been an organisation fighting for social change, and we've had to debate these issues. We don't always win the debate, but the majority of our membership were very supportive of the union being involved in international solidarity. They've seen the union do it for decades, and it became part of the culture of the industry. And we eventually succeeded in making the issue of East Timor a real issue for the rank and file.
From outside the union, were you criticised?
I don't have a recollection of being criticised. The union is affiliated to the Labor Party. We thought the Whitlam Labor government was compromised on the issue of East Timor. We expressed our criticism to the Labor government. We're independent. We're very much to the left of a right-wing social democratic position. But we didn't fear or feel any criticism coming back towards us. People knew exactly where the CFMEU stood.
Right. Now this brings me to the next question, which is, could you talk about the fact that you were campaigning at a time when Labour was in government, and in fact having closer and closer links between the Australian Defence Force and the Indonesian military. And this is when you guys were actually still affiliated to the Labour Party. How did you operate tactically in that sense? What did you do?
Well, the union is, as I said, very much to the left of the Labor Party, but we're also affiliated at the same time. And from our point of view, that gives us an opportunity to put a point of view both inside and outside of the Labor Party at the same time. The point of view is identical. We don't change our point of view when we're inside the Labor Party. We often moved resolutions at party branches in local areas, putting a point of view about East Timor. We took up the issue at the party conference right across the country, and we helped to move the position of the Labor Party to a better position in support of independence for East Timor.
Did you encounter any opposition inside the Labour Party in terms of having to debate your point? I mean, what arguments were used against it? For example, I've heard people say that, well, we were told that Indonesia's occupation was irreversible, that it was a hopeless cause, you should go and do something else. Did you hear things like that?
I think that it was a hopeless cause was a very strong point of view, and the liberation forces battled heroically by themselves for decades, the Falun Til, and they seem to be fighting a losing battle for many, many years. They seem to have suffered lots of defeats. Indonesia was moving population into East Timor, and it looked like at a certain point a lost cause. But whenever we saw people still fighting heroically, giving their lives for this great cause, that encouraged the Union to keep fighting on. I think the fact that there was also an East Timorese community in Sydney that was building solidarity was very important to encourage the Union and the Union movement to continue the fight. If there was no Portuguese-speaking membership on our building sites, if there was no Timorese community in Sydney, it would have made it a more difficult job to keep fighting on, I think.
Yeah, and you regard this as your responsibility personally as well, to do the social change activism?
I'm a socialist, and I'm very much committed to social change. I fight hard about the issues that workers ask us to fight about. It's about their wages, it's about their working conditions. But for real betterment of the interests of workers, you need social change. Big business has got too much power, and in the building industry now, there are tens of thousands of migrant workers that have got no rights, no entitlements, and really the situation is getting worse. And the only way to change that is to give working people more power, politically and industrially at the workplace.
Some people like myself, who are not building workers, but we are academics or whatever else, so people who are not part of your industry, or students indeed who might be listening to this, what could they do in future campaigns by you to assist your work, or even to support your union?
To seek to build alliances with the CFMEU, or more broadly the union movement. We're interested in social change, so if there's students or professionals that are interested in social change, they can't change the world by themselves, nor can we, so we need to build a very powerful alliance of people for change. That's important. The CFMEU itself have got a solidarity section. It's called CFMEU Solidarity, and we've got many people that are professionals and even academics and students that are members of a CFMEU supporters club, where they actually are members with no voting rights to decide the leadership of the union or the policies of the union, but people that just support the union for what we stand for. We're outspoken on the issue of Palestine, and people have seen us stand up for Palestine and have said they want to be part of that movement.
Yeah. Could you sort of give me your views on why it is you feel that the CFMEU is left?
The CFMEU is an amalgamation of a lot of building unions over many decades, and as I said earlier, the leadership of the building unions have been historically from the political parties of the left, some from the left of the Labor Party, but many people that historically were socialist and communist, and that history of radicalism has been in the union for a long time. Right. It's more difficult to sustain now because you don't have a strong socialist movement in this country. You don't have much training in left politics, but still the union is very much to the left, still committed to social justice and internationalism. Well,
in that case, the other question to me is that, well, why are the other unions not left?
There are many unions to the left as well. For example, the Maritime Union of Australia is a union to the left of Australian politics. But I think the left is certainly weaker than it was 20 years ago. I think the collapse of the international socialist movement, that there are no longer strong socialist political parties in this country, means that socialist influence is declining. So, and I think radicalism in general is also declining. But I think it's an historical thing. There's ebbs and flows in political debate. There's ebbs and flows in ideas, and at the moment there's a period of conservative dominance of politics.
Right.